Recently, I got together with 3 friends and we embarked on my first Battle Company's map-based campaign. This is the first exposure I've had to Battle Companies at all. It was a hell of a lot of fun. I kit-bashed an entire Laketown Battle Company. I mounted them on Laketown themed bases, which I'm very proud of. And to my distinct surprise, I won all 3 of my games. So I was able to expand into Erebor and Mirkwood. Through my plundering, I gained enough resources to purchase a hunting dog for my leader, a reinforcement, and a wandering dwarf. And seeing as though I have Mirkwood, on a 4+, I can be joined by a Mirkwood Elf Ranger. Now, they of course all need to be wearing the Laketown hat, otherwise, are they even really in the Laketown Battle Company? But, more importantly for this video, I would need to make 4 more Laketown themed bases. So I decided to film the process. I really hope you enjoy this one. I'm Joe from Just Wargamers. Here's how I made my Laketown bases. So Laketown terrain is obviously unique because it's a lake town. It's a town based on a lake. It was one of the terrains I really liked from the Hobbit films. It was very atmospheric with all the snow and the ice, but also the smoke. It kind of looked like a shanty town, everyone built on each other and cramped in there. Really interesting designs. I've seen a fair few people make Laketown bases where it's the wooden walkways, so the pieces in between houses, but these normally sit flat to the base. I wanted to elevate them up so that you could see some of the most defining feature of Laketown, which is of course the lake. So I took my standard 25mm Games Workshop base and cutting off a piece of sprue, I glued it to the top of the base. This is important because it's going to give separation between the wooden planks and the lake below. There's no exact rules on where to place this, it depends on what deck you're going to be using, but keeping them fairly central is a safe bet, at least to start with. These work really nicely because they're going spare, so you're not wasting anything, and you can't really tell that they're there unless you get really, really low, so it does give the appearance as if the wooden deck is floating above. Next up, we need to start establishing some of that watercolour. Now, I'm sure everyone has their own recipe, so you can change it to your taste. I've tried to do water green and brown before. It doesn't look right for me, so I've had to go for this kind of dark turquoisey colour. Whilst that was still wet, I stippled in a lighter blue just to give the appearance of depth and also kind of light reflecting off the top. How far you take this effect, or any of the effects I'm going to list really, is down to you. I don't really go crazy with the water effect necessarily, simply because of all the extra steps that we're going to do later. It'll get too crowded, but if you weren't going to do, say, the ice floats, then you would probably have more scope to do some more realistic water undulations and ripples and whatnot. But all I used was some aqua magic. This gives the kind of glossy, reflective finish of water. We're going to leave the water be for just a little while, and we're going to start working on the decking. Just like with the other effects, there's plenty of different ways to get wood effect, so pick your poison. You can either buy a sheet of textured plastic like this that has wooden timbers on it. You could make your own out of coffee stirrers, but my favourite and the technique I used for this project is using the Goblin Town terrain kit. The Goblin Town terrain kit has some fantastic texture on it. You might not need all the gribbly bits like the skulls and the rib cages and whatnot, but you can just smooth those off or cut those away. This really helps lend the irregularity of Laketown with the kind of shantytown feel and it falling into disrepair. All I did was cut them to size using clippers and glue them to the top of the sprue that we laid down earlier. To sell the effect that this is terrain that's floating on a lake, I wanted to add some support beams. For this, I used some wooden dowel. This is only a couple of millimeters thick. I've also used some of the more cylindrical poles from the Goblin Town sprue as well. This is also great because they have the same texture. Now it might be a good use of your clippers to cut just a certain section out so it slips in there so it looks like it's made to measure. Now with that, you should have a lot of unique designs for your Laketown bases, and we can move on to painting the wood. We have to do it in this way because getting that kind of water effect onto the water after you've already laid the decking would just be an absolute nightmare. So unless you are a wizard with masking tape, I would advise using a brush on primer so that you don't ruin the water effect that you've already laid down. Paint your wood however you like to paint your wood. I'm just doing a simple slap chop method here. Black prime, white dry brush, and sepia contrast paint. I think this is snakebite leather, watered down. This gives a really nice wood effect. If you were going for Laketown in the spring or the summer, you're probably done right here. But as I say, I really love the aesthetic from the films with the ice and the snow, so that's what I've gone with. To make the ice floats, I knew I needed something transparent, but I wanted to have a hint of white, so I ended up using this plastic DVD case. You can get them from video games and DVDs, those used to be a thing. And all I did was spray one side with a white. This still gives a kind of translucent effect, but also tinges it towards a kind of colder colour. These were cut up. To get the bigger chunks, I used my clippers, and then to refine the shape, I used some nail scissors for like cutting toenails and stuff. I don't use it for toenails, so don't worry if that grosses you out. I use it just for my ice floats. There's no toe residue, is what I'm trying to say. These are simply cut to the desired shape and glued in place. I'm using the Mirkwood Ranger here because elves love to show off, particularly in cold weather, so I wanted her to be running across the ice floats. I've gone for kind of rounded edges, but you could do like a fresh sheet that's got a crack in it with more kind of straight edge, like there's an impact to it. It's really whatever tickles your pickle. With Laketown being on a lake, there's obviously a lot of water around. So once you've laid down the desired amount of ice floats, I suggest we come back in with some moss effect. I didn't go for moss texture this time because it's going to contrast with another effect which we're going to do shortly. So I'm using this dirty down moss effect instead. This is really good for giving that kind of mossy wood effect. I just used an old brush and plastered it on the underside of all of the wood, making sure that it's climbing up some of those support beams. We're almost done now, but if you like, you can add your snow effect of choice. This obviously ties the two textures together, the ice floats and the decking, and just brings the whole piece together. Take a look at some of the interesting bases here. There's different levels, there's different textures. As you can see, you can use it for miniatures, you can use it for objective markers. You can push this idea as far as you want, or rein it in and do it as little as you like. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks very much for watching. Like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it. Let me know in the comments if you found it useful or interesting. And let me know if you want to see some more stuff like this. I'm really loving Battle Companies at the moment. It's really awesome. If you want to check out some up-to-date information on it, check out our Discord. There's a whole channel just dedicated to the map-based campaign that I'm in. Thanks so much. Have a great one, and I'll see you in the next one.